On your screen right now, you see a quote from one Kobe Bryant where he says, "What I am doing right now, I'm chasing perfection." And for an NBA player, it is impossible to have a perfect career where you make all the right decisions or you win a championship every year. The player who came closest to having a perfect career in my mind was one Bill Russell, but even Bill Russell didn't win a championship every year of his career. And in this video, I'm going to walk you through every NBA legend's biggest mistake or their worst decision. So the first player we're going to take a look at is one Larry Bird, and if you know anything about Larry Bird, he is no stranger to hard work or hustle, but in 1985, Larry Bird made the worst decision of his career when he opted to build his mom's driveway by himself, and in the process when Larry Bird was doing this, he suffered a severe back injury, and once Larry suffered this injury in 1985, he was never really the same player for the rest of his career as he had lingering back problems and 2 ruptured Achilles. And here's Larry Bird's Dr. Dan Drake talking about how painful it was for Larry Bird to play with that hurt back.
If you get paid to go to work, you got to go to work.
It was a situation that he was seeing almost daily. He had lost the structural stability in his spine, so it would slip into abnormal positions to try and lock itself to get an artificial stability. That's like getting your finger stuck in a door and somebody's still pushing on the door. So what we had to do was unlock his spine, realign it, do techniques that would hold that for 4 hours, 6 hours, that type of thing, and then he'd go play basketball.
So it really makes you wonder, how long could Larry Bird really have played if he never suffered that back injury while he was building his mom's driveway? And I think that's by far the biggest mistake Larry Bird ever made in his career, because that back injury was basically the beginning of the end of one Larry Bird. And next up we have one Isaiah Thomas, who was a huge rival of Larry Bird in the late 80s. And Isaiah, he was also a huge rival with one Michael Jordan. Isaiah and Jordan, their dislike for each other, it is very well documented. And the biggest mistake Isaiah ever made was walking off the court after losing to the Bulls while there was still time remaining on the clock. This move was seen as very disrespectful and was basically being a poor sport, and you'd expect more from a championship caliber player in a championship team like the Pistons. And a lot of people already hated the Pistons, but they just saw this as a classless move. And this move really, it just cemented Isaiah Thomas as being one of the most hated players in the NBA. And when Isaiah was looking for a selection to the '92 Dream Team, him walking off the court, that left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths, combined with the fact that Jordan and Scottie, they did not like Isaiah at all. And here's Scottie Pippen talking about if he would want Isaiah on the Dream Team.
Isaiah was the general. He was the guy that would yap at his teammates and say, knock him on the ass, do whatever you got to do.
A beautiful backdoor pass from Pippen, and he is walloped. He knew he was going to get hit.
I despised the way that he played the game.
Did you want him on the Dream Team?
No, I did not want him on the team.
Did Michael? Did you want him on the team?
Well, I can't speak for Michael, but I don't think he wanted him on the team.
Now, there has been speculation that your icy relationship with Isaiah Thomas is the reason that he was not selected. Well, what is your reaction to that?
That was one of the stipulations put to me prior to me even committing, that Isaiah wasn't a part of the team. I was getting strong innuendos that it wasn't just, it was coming from higher places that didn't want Isaiah Thomas on the team.
And for me, I think Isaiah, he was definitely worthy of being on that Dream Team, but I think the culmination of all the things Isaiah did, combined with the fact he walked off the court after losing and showed no sportsmanship, I think that played a big factor in people choosing the teams. So Isaiah walking off the court early, that is the biggest mistake of his career. And next up we do have Michael Jordan, and Jordan's accomplishments, his championships, his individual accolades, they're all well documented. And when looking at Jordan's career, there's not many mistakes or bad decisions that you can look to and kind of nitpick him, but there is one major decision that I think is the biggest mistake Michael Jordan ever made in his career. So let me take you to the 1998 Finals, where Michael Jordan had what many people think is the most iconic shot in NBA history that eventually would lead to the Bulls winning the championship. And his basketball career, it should have ended right there. He should have gone out on a high note, winning a championship, hitting an iconic shot. Michael Jordan's career, it should have stopped right there. But as everyone knows, he made the fatal mistake and the biggest mistake of his career by coming back to the Washington Wizards. Of all teams, the Washington Wizards. And Jordan was promised some stake and ownership with the Wizards, but it was a super random team to come back to. And a 38-year-old Michael Jordan, you don't want that being the last memory of your career. And in my opinion, Michael Jordan, he's kind of like the Brett Favre of the NBA. I mean, his career did include 3 retirements, and he really never knew when to hang it up. And I think a majority of the people watching this video, they would agree that Jordan, he should have called it quits permanently after that '98 Finals. And if he would have stayed retired, that would have been looked at as the best ending to a career in NBA history, and he basically would have gone out like a movie, going out on top as the champion. And that's why I say Michael Jordan, his biggest mistake ever was coming back for those 2 meaningless years on the Washington Wizards. And next up we have Dwayne Wade, another all-time great shooting guard, and the biggest mistake Dwayne Wade ever made was leaving Miami in the 2016 offseason. Now I do know there were a lot of contract disputes, and D-Wade, he was really looking to get paid, as he had taken a lot of pay cuts in Miami, and he really was one of the most unselfish players in the NBA. And Pat Riley, he really wasn't ready to pay D-Wade around $20 million, so that basically ended up with D-Wade going back to Chicago. And I mean, D-Wade in Chicago, it's a very forgettable experience. They did have a pretty competitive series versus the Boston Celtics in the first round, and if it wouldn't have been for Rajon Rondo getting injured, they actually might have upset that Celtics team. But I mean, D-Wade in Chicago, it's a very forgettable experience. And even after that, D-Wade, he would go to the Cleveland Cavaliers. And I mean, seeing D-Wade in a Cavs jersey, that's something you never want to see. That's like seeing Hakeem in a Toronto Raptors jersey, or seeing Patrick Ewing in a Sonics jersey. You just don't imagine that happening, and it just doesn't look right. But D-Wade did end up finding his way back to Miami, where he should have been the whole time. And in my opinion, D-Wade, he should have been a Heat lifer, and he should have never put on a different jersey. They didn't have Miami and that number 3 across the front. So D-Wade's biggest mistake in his career was not being a Heat lifer and putting on those ugly Cavs and Bulls uniforms. And next up we have LeBron James, the perfect segue from D-Wade, as they both were teammates in Miami. And the worst decision LeBron James ever made in his career, it was actually called The Decision. It's when he announced on live TV he was leaving Cleveland, Ohio, and heading down to South Beach to team up with D-Wade and Chris Bosh. And it isn't just because he went to Miami and joined 2 superstars, it's the way in which he did it. He basically ripped Cleveland's heart out on live TV, and it didn't help that LeBron and company, they basically had a huge party declaring how they're going to win championship after championship.
But we also know you 3 kings came down here to win championships. Not 1, championships.
Not 2.
LeBron, tell us about that.
Not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7. Hey, and when I say that, I really believe it.
And a lot of NBA legends, they found that very disrespectful, and they basically saw it as cheating to win a championship. And LeBron James with the Heat, if you can remember, he was public enemy number 1. Everyone who wasn't a Heat fan, they absolutely hated LeBron James. So I think the decision, it's by far the biggest mistake LeBron James ever made in his career. And sticking with the theme of leaving in free agency, we have Dwight Howard up next. And Dwight going to LA, it is the biggest mistake of his career. And looking back, I think it was the beginning of the end for one Dwight Howard, not only because of the injuries, but also because of the perception by the media and by fans in general of Dwight Howard being a soft player, and the perception they didn't take basketball serious enough. And I don't think it helped being with Kobe Bryant, one of the most intense, most dedicated players. And Dwight Howard, he was basically the complete opposite. And those 2 players' personalities, they definitely clashed. But even after Dwight left the Lakers, his image would never really recover, as he bounced around from the Rockets to the Hawks to the Hornets, even the Wizards. So it really makes you wonder, how would we view Dwight Howard if he never left Orlando and never signed with the LA Lakers and made the biggest mistake of his career? And next up, we do have one Kobe Bryant. And Kobe's biggest mistake in his career, it actually came when he was with Dwight Howard. And the biggest mistake I think Kobe ever made in his career was going on that ridiculous run during the 2013 season where he was playing like 45, 48 minutes a game. And it was basically a one-man show where he was trying to will the Lakers into the playoffs. And in hindsight, that Lakers team had no chance in the playoffs. Even with Kobe, I don't think they were going to make it far. And I think all the wear and tear of Kobe's career, it really caught up to him in that Warriors game. And it makes you wonder, what could a 35 or 36-year-old Kobe Bryant, what could he have accomplished if he didn't suffer that injury versus the Golden State Warriors? So I think the biggest mistake Kobe ever made was pushing himself to the limit. But again, that is Kobe Bryant. He wants to push himself as far as he can go. And in 2013, he pushed himself just a little too far. And next up, we have one of the most underrated players in NBA history, and that is David Thompson. And if you do know the name David Thompson, it's probably because you heard about him getting banned from the NBA for doing cocaine. And early on in David Thompson's career, he was looked at as one of the elite scorers of the ABA, up there with Dr. J. And over the first 4 years of David Thompson's career, he was a 4-time All-Star, and he averaged around 26 points per game. So he definitely was a top-tier player. But the one big mistake that he made multiple times throughout his career was doing cocaine and not being able to fix his addiction. And I think if David Thompson, if he didn't get hooked on drugs, I think he would have been one of the most elite players in the 80s. But sadly, he was banned from the NBA in 1985, and that's a huge reason he's one of the most underrated players in NBA history.